Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Buff Naggle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Buff Naggle the podcast, where we talk about all things good, the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Zach, and we got a fantastic show today. We're going to be talking and diving into society and what we've learned from society and what we maybe haven't learned from society. However, I can't do this alone. So as always, I'm joined by Rafe. Rafe, how you doing?
Zach, you're looking at me as if in the camera while you were doing the intro, I was standing here doing manly poses like Charles Atlas of old. But because that's what I was doing. Hey, Zach, I am wonderful tonight. It is a great day to be doing a podcast with you. And hey, all you guys that are listeners out there, we appreciate having you here. We are everywhere on the interwebs. You can find us wherever you look. Internet, this or that. We on Facebook, Zach? I don't know if we're on Facebook, but we're on those other things, right? We're on Twitter and we're on Apple Podcasts and all sorts of places. We are places I'm sure that I don't even know about yet, Zach. Okay, if you are new to the podcast, give us 4 episodes and see if we don't give you something to a reason to come back and listen to join the Buff team. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a note at buffnagel@buffnagel.com, and we'll take your, what do we say? We take your advice into account with all the legal disclaimers that entail. So remember, send us a 5-star review. Give us those smiley stars. Hit the likes and all that. Spread the love, man. Spread the love. Zach. Here we go.
Sometimes you just never know what we're going to get with you. That's all I know.
That's.
But no, what we're going to do today is we're going to pull back the curtain of society and look at society, what we can learn from it, and like how we can improve it and better it through our individual actions, by spreading a little more kindness, a little more love, a little more grace. We talked in our pre-show about a lot of different things that we've noticed in people, specifically what I've seen in my generation, what I've learned from growing up, playing sports, being in academic settings, and a bunch of other things in between. And it's an interesting thing when we look at the idea of society. And, I see personally, there's a lot of focus these days on mental health because it seems like everybody has a mental health issue. But the reason we have a lot of people with mental health issues is we created a society that allows these issues to flourish and prosper, and people aren't able to take care of the proper care of them before they get to the point when they need to see a specialist or seek help in some way.
So and I want to make sure we get this right, because there's a couple different camps out there. There are some camps that every little behavior problem is a mental illness. There are some that there is no mental illness, and there are some schools of thought that we need to train ourselves up so that we can deal with the junk that life throws at you. How are you defining that?
I mean, I like that third bucket that you made up is like, we need to be able to learn how to deal with this stuff. But like, there are 100%, there are, anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorder. Those things are real. There aren't just made up random things that we see in Hollywood movies and stuff like that. Actually, I'll save that for another day about Hollywood's misrepresentation of mental illnesses and mental health as a whole, because I think it actually does a very bad job. I can give a very specific example. If it comes up, it will. If not, we'll let it go for now. But I think those things are real. But like, additionally, if we don't know how to process our emotions, if we don't know how to, regulate our nervous system, our emotional state, we're eventually going to get to the point where our brain, for the lack of a better term, breaks. Something comes up and we slip into those depression spirals. We slip into those anxiety places. We get panic attacks, anxiety attacks, things like that. As someone who's experienced both of those type of attacks, yeah, it's not good. But I'm now in a better place mentally where I can prepare for that and I can put myself in a position to be successful before they even come up.
So it's not a denial that those things exist, but it is there are, I guess that there's, what are the word they use? They say there's a spectrum. There's all sorts of, there's a range of how those things go, and a good deal of them. Well, I guess it's like any of these things. If you're at one extreme or the other, there's, you never have the issues. The other people, they have issues all the time. But there's a huge group in the middle that I guess we can say you can learn to control. You can control that. You can learn to deal with whatever it is that you have, and you can train yourself up in the way that you should go.
Yeah, I mean, you can train and teach yourself. Like, you can understand when you are misregulated, unregulated, out of alignment with yourself. Like, hey, what do I do to get back into my position? The answer isn't going to the movies, watching your favorite TV show on Netflix, going out to the bar with friends, eating a bunch of fast food. It's none of those things. We've created a society where those things are the easy and accessible options. The hard thing to do is to sit quietly for 10 minutes and work through breath work. It's really, like, sometimes it's as simple as that, just working through breathing techniques to get yourself, okay, cool. I'm in a position where I can do this thing. Maybe it's, you realize, I can't be at work today. I need to go lie down and take a nap. I need someone to bring me chicken noodle soup. Whatever it may be. To be able to get yourself in a position so that, like, you're not in that position where it's scary and people become fearful for things you may or may not do. We need to create a society that celebrates the fact that, like, hey, look, you're doing this thing. You're doing an ice bath because for you it helps you, regulate, calm down, reset yourself so that maybe you get better sleep. You can perform better academically or socially or athletically, whatever it may be. You're doing these things because it's a benefit to you, rather than saying, like, hey, you're weird, why are you doing that? It's like, hey, I see you, I recognize you, I know that's beneficial for you. How can I support you?
So I gotta believe, okay, and I think this is how I gotta think about what the listener is maybe thinking here is I think I agree with all of that to a point, right? But at some level, if you need to have your what do they call it, your safety animal, your safety pony on the airplane with you, that it seems like at some level there's is that a real thing? I mean, I don't want to say, I'm not going to say that something that somebody's going through, that they aren't going through that, because it is real, and it's real to them enough to do that. But we're seeing a lot of mental illness now that is coming out of everywhere at levels that are unprecedented in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing higher numbers of people being diagnosed with anxiety and depression. On top of that, we're seeing higher numbers of kids being diagnosed with autism. And on top of that, we're seeing a wide range of, this physical things going on in kids. Like, we're having a higher numbers of kids with, severe allergies, kids who are obesity, stuff like that. So if you look at all those things, it's like, well, obesity is not good. Why are these kids obese or something like that? It's like, well, maybe they're just eating too much food. And it's like, well, maybe the reason they're eating too much food is because the default is just to go to a fast food place. Our default is to do the easy and quick option. The anxiety and depression stuff is like, we are, a lot of my generations have been, we have set high levels for ourselves academically, athletically, performance-wise. It's like, if we don't meet that and we fall down, we never learned in our academic or athletic situations how to be able to, celebrate or sit with that failure, or even to be like, okay, cool, you struggled, you made it through, whatever it may be. What's the next step once I leave this thing behind? And it's, I think that anxiety, depression component, especially with the athletic academic component, is a space that I spend a lot of time with because I personally experienced a lot of that. So it's, how do we teach these kids before they get to that point how to go through this process, what that process looks like, instead of, when that kid is 12, telling them, hey, you got to be stoic. So that kid goes, okay, I'm stoic now. And then, when they have emotions that they have to deal with, they process them through being tough, and then they never actually process them to be able to calm down, reset. And then once they leave that sport, that stuff comes boiling over the top. Once they leave that academic setting, it's over there and they don't know what to do because they've lost identity, because the only thing that they've been focusing on is an external thing rather than internal things.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack in there. I was okay. So let me. I think I'm seeing a thing here. So like, mental health issues are difficult to talk about because they're difficult to quantify and difficult to actually see. It's hard to see it on the MRI. You don't see it on the X-ray. You break your you punch a wall and break your hand. You'll see the fracture. Okay, that's an easy thing to see, but. So I think the first thing is we're talking about training yourself up so that you are, I guess I want to say stronger, but not in a sense that you're stronger, that you can hold back more emotion and do that, but that you can healthily deal with that. So like if I don't work out and then I go out to the yard and I try to lift that big rock I have in the backyard, I'm going to hurt my back. That's what's going to happen. And I think what you're saying is we're telling kids to lift the big rock without telling them how to train up to be prepared to deal with what's going to happen when they lift the rock.
I mean, that's a really good analogy. I was thinking, when you were kind of talking about that, presetting that up, we're not teaching these kids these skills that can help prevent the things that become the deep depressions, the anxiety-ridden days, the questioning, the what ifs. Like we haven't taught that. I would go back to we're telling these kids pretty early ages they got to be stoic.
So wait. Okay, so tell me what that means, because I think a lot of people think stoic means that what?
Yeah. Okay. Let's go this way. What is your definition of stoic?
Okay. Well, stoic. Okay. Here's what I remember from stoic. All right. I remember Herbert and Soyan teaching our philosophy class in first semester or second semester college, and I remember we covered it was a broad survey course on philosophy stuff, and I remember him telling a story of one of the Stoics who was being was told to do something by some guy with a stick or something like that, and the guy with the stick started beating him with the stick, and the Stoic guy didn't show the emotion. Didn't do anything, and the guy kept beating him so hard he actually broke the guy's leg. And the guy was like, "Well, look, now you broke my leg." So my recollection, at least that from there, was a very maybe measured, very control of emotional response is how I think about stoicism. But I don't think that's what coaches teach. And certainly in football is one thing, and I don't think that's what you mean by it either. I think those two things are actually on further spectrum, further edges of the spectrum.
You used a really good phrase about like something emotion. I forgot what it was. Then you went to a different way, but you were talking about the expression of emotion.
Okay,
and there was an expression of emotion, which is more or less what stoicism is. But there's the behind the scene part of stoicism. There's the okay, cool. You can be in pain, but you don't let that pain control you or make your decision for you. So if I'm hurting, I'm in pain. Well, I don't make that pain be the reason I don't lift the rock. I go back to like, okay, cool. I'm in pain. I'm dealing with this thing. How can I better position myself so I can then lift this rock? It's not fighting through in the name of toughness for toughness sake. That's a dumb idea. If you got to be tough and stoic, no, like that's not. If you're being stoic, you're not letting the emotion affect your decision. And when you get into these stoic situations, like, oh, I got to be tough, you get frustrated. So and then you show that frustration by being tough, and then you overstep a line. And then once you overstep that line, the other team, they can pick on you, whatever it may be. It's you actually didn't manage that emotion. You let that emotion control you, rather than be like, you know what? I'm frustrated right now. I got to take a step back. I recognize this. I see this. I'm not going to let this control me. I'm going to be stoic, remove myself from the situation, reset, and then I can fully show up in the next situation.
So we always joke about that scene from the movie Miracle where I forget who it was, O'Callahan or Flanagan or whatever those one of those hockey guys. He gets a bad bruise, a bad thigh bruise.
McClanahan.
Flanagan does, yeah. And they're at the first intermission, and he says, a coach says to him that uh, a a bruise in the thigh is a long way from the heart. All right, and that's a coach's way of saying you got to toughen up. But he plays through that, and he's the guy that scores the goal against the. Isn't that right?
No.
Isn't he? Who's the? No, he comes off the bench. Right? No, not the goal, but the goal. The goal with a second left against the best goalie in the world.
No, that was Mark Johnson.
Well, then it was okay because I remember he's hobbling around on the ice.
No, he makes a play that sets things up, but he doesn't actually score the goal.
He wasn't the guy. Okay, but okay.
You're questioning me
about
the 1980 U.S. Soviet Union game.
Well, okay, but that guy he played through that. But remember what the coach did though? He asked the doc, "Is he going to hurt it worse if he keeps playing?" All right, and since he wasn't, he figured that he could control that. All right, and I think that's
a good line. That's the line right there. Recognizing, but sometimes there's times when it's like, hey, I need to rest. I'm not going to hurt it anymore. I need to rest, but I can come back at some point. But if you break your ribs, you have a punctured lung, and you're playing through that, that's just stupidity.
Well, I'm not sure. It's not going to hurt you to play on one lung, Zach. I mean, just use the other lung. Just build it. No, okay. But now you mentioned, okay, so here's a thought that just flashed into my head here. We are asking children to do things that are really, really hard. Okay, we are putting I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're putting middle school basketball teams and high school basketball teams on national television, right? And we are exposing them to pressures that a lot of adults have difficulty dealing with them, right? And we're not trained. We're asking children to do the mental equivalents of lifting really heavy weights without proper training.
I mean, additionally, we're also asking those same kids to be doing pro level workout and conditioning segments. That's a different point.
Well, and not just in sports. Okay, not just in sports. They're all taking super duper AP this and that and the other thing. They're trying to get into Juilliard at age 6. This international spelling bees. And we've talked about this before. Is the drive to be the galactic best leaves everyone but just a very small handful in a dump heap, a trash heap behind them, and it's no longer good enough to be the best kid in your room, right? Your bedroom at home. You ought to be the best kid there. You ought to be, and you ought to work to be one of the best kids in your family, and it ought to be all right if you make the team, or even if you don't make the team in high school, right? This idea to push these guys to the top, I can't believe that has no impact on the mental health status of those young athletes and young scholars and young musicians and young thespians and all that stuff.
I mean, it has a massive impact on it. You look at athletes, because that's my background, so I can talk on this a little bit, but you look at athletes, once they leave sport and they're dealing with something and they don't have their support system around, there's a reason we kind of have a suicide pandemic going on in college sports. We have high-level athletes at multiple big-name universities committing suicide or dropping out of school because of mental health lesions. We've put so much pressure to chase these external things that we've let the soul and the fire in our soul die.
So now, and that's not happening just to boys, is it? That's happening a lot to girls now too.
So there's a weird thing going on with the mental health spectrum in sports. It happens with males because males, for the most part, they're told to be stoic. They don't have the same type of support system set up. Talking about feelings, emotions in the locker room is a very difficult thing to do. I have written about this multiple and countless times. I've talked about it multiple and different times. When you lose that identity, you lose that support system, you lose those things, and you never learned how to regulate, how to put yourself in a position where you can be successful. you struggle, and that leads to anxiety, that leads to depression, that leads to the suicide, that leads to the tragic. On the female side, a lot of it goes back to body image related things, which is why you see a lot of eating disorders in in women's sports, those type of things. And additionally, there's academic and athletic pressures on those kids as well, and they're dealing with a lot of different other things as well. I don't know what it's like to be a girl, but I do know that there are different emotional states that you are going in and out of that are going to be difficult to handle when you're playing at that level. And if you never learned how to do it because your coach was always a guy, and then therefore if your coach was a guy, you didn't feel comfortable talking about these things maybe going on with your body and your an eating disorder or any other mental related things, it's going to further and further separate the thing rather than talking about the thing when it first comes up. You look at it when it's already at like stage 3, and that's not helpful, because when we can talk about the things before they become a bigger problem, we can solve them. It's the same thing with cancer. According to studies, you have cancer cells grow in your body every single day, but our bodies are strong enough to be able to take care of them before they cause any damage. We need to do the same thing with mental health. We need to be and provide the resources in front of us so that when those little things come up, we have the support systems around us so that we can elevate our lives. We can take care of that stuff before it becomes an issue. Or if it does become a big enough issue, we know the proper channels that we can go through so that we can help these people be successful throughout life, once they graduate school, once they move on from their sport, once they change jobs, whatever it may be and whatever it looks like.
Yeah, that's got to be that has to be the point, and we've talked about this in the past of what we do with these kids and why we do that. All right, we can't. The purpose of high school travel baseball can't be to try to get your kid to be a World Series champion, because that's a pipe dream that is so rare that's not a worthwhile thing to do. And same with trying to get the kids into Juilliard or wherever they go. Right, the goal has got to be to lay the foundation for building extraordinary men and women, right? Who can deal with the things that they're being given. So it's got to be to train them physically, right? In the case of sports, to hit a curveball, to be able to hit the slap shot, all right, or to be able to play whatever you have to do on the violin or the piano, or to be able to sing and hit the high notes. We're training you to do that physically, but mentally, we've got to train you to be able to deal with what's going to happen when you leave, and what happens in your regular life when you no longer have that identity of being that superstar. Because we're all going to come back to earth at some point, and we're going to be regular grown-ups going through regular grown-up things. And if we're not trained to handle that, then why did we bother going through all the sports stuff? Okay, I'm going to say this, Zach, because I'm amazed. I just looked here at the clock. All right, so these are things that are problems. All right, and we see it all over a lot of youth stuff, and we still see it in adult stuff too. But what do we? Okay, so here's the seek the good. All right, what does the good look like in dealing with these things? Because there can be some real good that comes out of these things. And what's the long game good look like? How do you get by this stuff?
There's lots of supportive communities, finding people to help you shine and be bright, focus on the internal rather than the external. I can say all those things, but what's better is that I gave you a list of 3 things, then we can talk about those a little bit more in depth.
Okay,
the first thing is, getting back to nature.
All right.
I don't think we understand. One, humans are social creatures. This is a completely different tangent that's not related to this. So
this is number 0. Okay, this is 0, and then with nature will be number 1.
Okay, yeah. So humans are social creatures. I think this actually gets forgotten a lot on the extroversion and introversion scale. Is we're like, oh, you're introverted. You like to spend time alone. It's like, I am introverted. I love spending time alone. I'm very comfortable by myself, but I still need my people. So I need to be able to find my people and be able to be social and interact with them, because that's going to allow me to, one, thrive in whatever other settings I do, whether that's professionally, academically, athletically, musically, whatever it may be. It's going to allow me to do more there. And it's also going to allow me to be comfortable in my introversion, in my connection there. That's thing 1. And then same thing with extroverts. They need to be able to have their people and the things that be able to light them up and that they want to be comfortable with and be able to share and show. It's the same thing there. That's thing 0. Back to thing 1. back to nature. Getting out in nature is a wonderful thing. We live in such a fast-paced society that we're always on our phones. We're always moving to the next thing. We're always trying to run, go, go, go. That sometimes we forget to slow down. And nature allows us to do that. So being able to get outside, going on a walk, and looking at the trees, looking at the way the water ripples, looking at the way the squirrel runs up and down the trail, whatever it may be. Maybe it's literally you have a little spot that you know about that you can just sit down on a rock and just be in that moment without your phone, without the noise, without the distraction. Being in nature allows you to connect back in and allows you to slow down. We've talked about this, being in a fast-paced world. If you can slow down your brain, you can slow down your thinking, you can slow down your breath. You're going to be able to, once you leave that, better show up in the space that you're in.
Yeah, I gotta believe, Zach. The more I think about this, we got you have two little nieces and you got a little nephew coming up. I'm just wondering, like, I have this phone and we use it to communicate. I set up things. When are we recording this week? Doing all that stuff back and forth between. But I tell you, the amount of time I see kids and grown-ups on these devices. This cannot be good. All right. I'll say it. Put the damn thing down. All right. Don't put it by your bed at night. Put it in the other room. Turn it off. Get your sleep. Get your rest. That's a good thing. Okay. It's just a tool. You should drive it. Don't let it drive you. Get rid of the social media crap. Unless you're following the buff. All right. I don't see why else you have that machine. All right. So look. Make it something good for you, not a problem, not a crutch, not a something you're addicted to. Get rid of it, and it's a real thing. All right, the addiction to these phones is real. Get rid of it. Get everything in it out of your life, and get back to real. Go back and remember, those of you who are my age, go back and remember what it was like when we did this, all right? Before we all had these devices, what our lives were like. Watch some movies from the 80s, right? Watch movies with real people in the 80s and see what it's like without this, okay? You'll find a calmer, you'll find a more comfortable, a more human approach to these things. The phone is a wonderful tool. You have got to control it.
Yeah, that's very true. And my second point is going. I think this is my second point. I'm not sure if this is second or this is third. But it's going back and finding something that you did as a child and loved. Like eventually we all got to the point where we grew up a little bit and we kind of got more focused on, our professional careers, things like that, academic settings, whatever it may be. And we forgot to do like the little joyful things. I've mentioned multiple times on this podcast before, I like to draw art. That ability to draw art is my expression of things that I see in my soul, that I see in the world, that I want to be able to share and showcase onto the world. It's very simple. It's very easy to do, and it allows me to disconnect. When I'm drawing something, I'm not worried about my phone. I want to finish my project. I want to get it done. I want to be able to share it with my friends. Be like, hey, look at this thing I did that I'm proud of.
I think people. I guess I'm going to take that just and twist it just a little bit. All right, and I'm going to say do things that are creative. All right, make things. All right, we've talked about this, and I've talked about how in Genesis, I think as Imago Dei, one of the things we're called to do is to be creative. Okay, and whether that means you make your own, maybe you make great brownies. Maybe you cook. Maybe you do woodworking. Maybe you make Lego sets. Maybe you draw. Maybe, right? Do something where you're creating something that you can, and it may be just for you, right? Whatever that is. Maybe you like to make cookies and eat them, or whatever it is. Do that, and you know what? You don't have to post them on social media. You don't have to go to the convention. Do that for you. Okay, that's the first half of that is be creative, because that's what we used to do as kids when we would draw and make things out of Play-Doh and all that other stuff. The second thing is about a childlike approach to these things. All right, I'm a grown adult.
That's
Okay,
debatable.
there I am, Zach, and I have a professional job where I make decisions and deal with people with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line. All right, and I tell you, I don't know how people who don't have a humorous outlook how they get through it, because otherwise it is so stressful. I talked to somebody one time at a company that we were working with, and they said our goal here is to be informal but not unprofessional, right? And I think it's possible to stay professional, right, and still have a good time doing what you're doing. All right, you don't have to be. That doesn't mean I am not going to deliberately screw up statistical analyses just for the joke. Well, I'm not this week at least. All right, so but you don't have to be stodgy formal all the time in everything you do. All right, you can have some levity in your life, and I would encourage all of you to loosen the top button in your professional lives and bring a little bit of sunshine, try to bring a little joy, a little bit of happiness to your work life. That's part of that childhood joy thing.
Yeah, and it's important to just have fun, relax, be in the moment of something, express. I don't know. It's life is too short not to have fun, so might as well have some fun while we're at it. Don't get distracted with always focusing on that external thing that you're chasing. Sometimes you got to feed your soul a little bit, feed that fire, keep it burning bright, because then you can light up the world a little bit more. And then finally, my third thing is what is my third thing?
You said eat passion fruit? No, you said be passionate.
Really eat passion fruit?
Well, it said eight and passion. I thought about passion fruit.
Yeah, be passionate. So if there is something that you care deeply about, regardless of if it is a thing that's related to something you've accomplished or not accomplished, if you're passionate about it, talk about it, share about it, let people know. I talk a lot about mental health awareness, mental health advocacy, because it's something that's very, very important to me, as I believe I've mentioned and alluded to on this podcast multiple times before. And I am going to keep talking about that stuff because I believe it's important to have, vocal male role models talking about struggles that they've had mentally, so that other people who may be struggling can see the light. They can have somebody light their torch, light their soul, so that they can shine a little bit brighter in the world. Because when we light a candle with our own light, with our own candle, that one candle doesn't go out. Now we have two candles burning, which means the room is brighter. The world is a little bit brighter, and we get to live in a big world. And that's what I want to see. So that's something I'm passionate about. I will speak on that. I don't have any academic credential on that, and that doesn't matter, because this stuff is passionate about to me. I care about it, and I want to see more from it. So I will continue to do more, because I want to see my people shine. I want to see my people flourish.
And you don't have to do. It doesn't have to be. Zach's passionate thing here is a really great good for other people, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to be that. If you're passionate about romantic poetry, for example, then you know what? Learn it. Get real good at it. Share what's beautiful in that with other people. If you like to, if you're passionate about bicycling, then get into that and do that. If you like, all right. So find these things that give you joy and make time for them. And I bet, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. And I'm like, you know what? You got time. You have time, right? If you put this little square glass device away, you will have a lot of time. It is a rectangle. Okay, I'm not going to re-record that. Take this rectangle device, all right, and put it away and turn off the TV. All right, get out into nature, express your childhood joy, be passionate about something, and share the fine. We say this like Zach. These are these things we talk about. Every week we've said this since, I don't know, early on. We didn't say it in the first couple episodes, but we say it now. Seek the good, be the good, do the good, spread the what are seek be spread, right? Find something good. That's the seek. Be it, all right? That's being that light for somebody else, all right? And then spread it. Make sure you light somebody else's candle. And if you do that, you will find yourself doing wonderful things. Just like, do you put your grocery cart away when you go to the grocery store? Do that. Do you help the old lady with her bags, put them in her car? Do that. Okay. Even if you might think, well, is she going to think that I'm some kind of creeper? No, she won't. She'll be so excited that somebody helped her out. Smile, spread the joy, be the light. All right. Verb the noun. You know what? Do it. All right. Do it. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think we when we do that, we stop focusing on the externals. Like we become, more than just our degrees, our titles, our achievements, our accolades. We then become the embodiment of that soul that we have now kindled a little bit more and is now a spark that has birthed itself into a fire that we get to share that light and spread that light onto the world. And it's such an important thing to do, especially in today's society that is so fast paced and wrapped up in all these other things that we sometimes forget about the things that are internally inside us that we need to sometimes showcase and share the world so that we can do these things better, so that we can show up better for ourselves in anywhere, in any space we do. That's all I got. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to go remind you all to go seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Enjoy the adventure of life.